So our next guest is an award-winning British storyteller. He's very well known for his voiceover work. He does commercials, audiobooks, but he travels all around telling his stories at museums, theaters, schools, you name it. It's wonderful to have him on the show. He's been a real charge backstage and a lot of fun to talk to tonight. Let's make him feel really welcome tonight, folks. Simon Brooks.
I thought I should do the river dance then, but, I'm wearing suspenders tonight, so I can't. So I'm going to share two stories with you tonight, and I hope you like them immensely. The first story is an Irish story, and everybody knows somebody like Sean. Sean is the kind of guy that, he knows all the good songs, and he knows all the best stories, and he's great to hang out with. But when you actually say, "Hey, Sean, I need some help. Can you give me a hand?" Sean will be, "Well, no, I've actually got to go and see my mother. I'll be right back." Or, "Oh, I've got to see the doctor. I'm sorry. I'll see you another time." Never there to help out. Well, it was that time of the year when the haying was going to be done. And Sean knew that haying is really, really, really hard work. And so instead of heading to the fields where everybody else headed towards to help with the haying, he went the opposite direction. And he walked along a country lane, one that he walked down many times before, where there was a great stone wall. And he heard from the other side of the stone wall this little tapping sound. What is that, he thought? Maybe it's a bird cracking a nut. So he peered over the wall, and what he saw was one of the little wee folk. You know what I'm talking about, right? It's a little leprechaun. And he had his hammer out, and he's booting on his shoes, and he's like bang, 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 fixing his shoes he is. And so Sean knew that if there's a leprechaun, then there's a pot of gold, if he can get hold of the leprechaun. So as quietly as he were able, he climbed over the wall and leapt down and grabbed hold of the leprechaun. "Well, hello there," said Sean. "Well, hello there," said the leprechaun. "How are you doing today?" "It was all right until you showed up." And Sean tried to coax the information out of him, but he wasn't able to. So in the end, he gave up and says, "Now listen, I've got you in my hands, and you've got to tell me where your pot of gold is." "I suppose I do." "Now tell me where it is." "All right. First of all, you follow this path along until you get to the forest. And you go into the forest for about a quarter of a mile. You take a left. You'll see there's a little deer trail. Go down there, take a left, and then as soon as you come out of the forest of that trail, you take a right. That'll be that way. You take a right, and then you'll go to the end of that field, down a dale and up over a hill, and there'll be a field filled with poppies, and that's where you'll find me pot of gold, right in the middle of that field." And Sean thought, "You'll take me there, now point me the way." And so he did. Down here, and they went over the hills and through the forest and everything, and he got to the field of poppies. And the wee gentleman said, "It's right in there now. Now put me down." "That's a big field of poppies," thought Sean. "I'll not put you down. If I put you down, you'll run away on me and I'll never find the pot of gold. Now show me exactly where that pot of gold is. Show me which plants that pot of gold is buried beneath." "All right then. This way." And they walked, with Sean holding him like a wee child in his arms. "A little bit left, and now a little bit right, and then a little bit more left, and now take a half a step back. You're having me on. I'm not, I am. It's underneath this plant right here." "How far down is it?" "About 6 foot down. And the ground's hard as well." Sean happened to be wearing a red scarf. I got an idea, and he undid the red scarf, and he wrapped it around the plant and tied it on there. "Now you have to promise me 3 things. "I don't, you do. All right. You have to promise me that you'll not take that scarf from that plant." "Okay, I promise I'll not take that scarf from that plant." And you got to promise not to move that plant from right where it is there." "All right then. I'll promise not to move that plant from that spot there, nor the scarf that's on it. And you have to promise me not to move the pot of gold from underneath it, for I have to go back and get myself a shovel because I can't dig down that far. All right then. I promise I won't move the pot of gold, nor the plant, nor the scarf from the place that they're at now. Thank you very much. Now put me down, I will. And the little man vanished. And Sean took off back home, grabbed his shovel, ran all the way back. And when he got back to that field, his jaw nearly hit the ground. As far as he knew, the scarf was still on the plant. As far as he knew, the plant was still in exactly the same spot. And as far as he knew, the gold was underneath it. But Sean was also very, very sure, for it was as clear as day before him. He saw it with his own eyes. The wee gentleman had magicked red scarves, just like Sean's, onto every single plant. Well, Sean wasn't going to dig for that gold, but he had a long-handled shovel and he knew what he could do with it, and so he collected all those red scarves. And even though he was hoping never to work a day in his life, he opened a little shop called Sean's Red Scarf Shop. And that's all he sold for the rest of his days. The end. And, bring the lights back up. Don't die. Sorry. You know, he could just move the light away and I'll be in the darkness. I shouldn't really be mean to the lighting guy. Yeah. Sorry, forgive me. So the second story I'm going to tell you, that story was an Irish story. And the second story I'm going to tell you is a story from Egypt area, Northern Africa, a bit of Turkey in there as well. And it's about this man called the Hodja, Nasruddin the Hodja. How many of you have ever heard of him? Okay, so the library is open what days? All right, so Nasruddin the Hodja, he was a wise, foolish man, or a foolish, wise man, whichever way you wanted to look at it. And he would often have coffee with his friends, nice, thick Turkish coffee. And he was at this cafe with his friends, and they're all going on about their wives. The Hodja wasn't married, you see. And they're all talking about their wives and the trials and tribulations of marriage. Are any of you married? All right, I got that one right then. And they all look at the Hodja and they say, well, how is it that you never married, Hodja? Yes, why didn't you ever marry? You should have married. You're not that young anymore. You need to marry. And it's like, well, I was always looking for the perfect wife. The perfect. There's no such thing as the perfect wife. No, there isn't. There's no such thing as the perfect wife. None of us here could say that there is any such thing as a perfect wife. But you are wrong. How so? Well, I met the perfect wife. You did? Oh, yes, I did. Well, tell us about it then. How come you never married? This is a story, and I shall tell it to you. You see, in my younger days, I wanted to find someone I could spend the rest of my life with. And so I put inquiries out into the world for a suitable wife for myself, for the perfect wife for myself. As you gentlemen know, I'm not a very good cook, so I needed someone who could cook. I'm also very intelligent, very philosophical, and love poetry. So I wanted someone who was like-minded, who knew different poets, who knew about philosophy and all these wonderful things, so we could have long conversations together. And thirdly, if I've got to spend the rest of my life with her, she has to be pleasing on my eye. Well, sounds like a good plan, doesn't it? Hey, yeah, it does. It sounds like a great plan. Did it work? Well, it almost worked. Well, tell us then, tell us. I will. And the Hodja took another sip of his coffee and began. Well, I heard of this woman in Cairo, and so I got on my donkey after sending her notices that I would be arriving, and I traveled to Cairo. When I got there, it was quite dark. But they welcomed me and her family, and they sat me down. It was nice, low-lit candlelight. It was very romantic. And we had wonderful conversations, and the food that she had prepared with her mother was absolutely beautiful. But it was starting to get late, and I had to leave, because it would be the correct thing to do. And they turned up one of the lights and one of the lamps, and I saw this woman. And I thought she must be very pleasing to somebody to look at for the rest of their lives, but not for me. And so I bid myself a good night and left them. So you didn't find the perfect wife. Oh, I haven't finished yet. Well, come on, tell us. Well, I heard of this other woman in Baghdad. So once again I got on my donkey and I traveled to Baghdad. It was the middle of the day when I arrived. And she was very shy at first. Her mother was there with her, and I had a small conversation. We went back to her home, and she was a very delightful young woman, very gorgeous. And we sat down to eat, and the food was delectable. But she became more and more comfortable, and she began to talk. And talk. And talk and talk, and I had to leave. So you didn't find it? No, I did. You see, there were many other advances that I made to people traveling around, but I heard of this woman in Alexandria. So I got on my donkey and I traveled all the way to Alexandria. And she met me there with her father on the docksides by the sea. It was beautiful. The wind blew through her raven hair that shone. Oh, it was beautiful. Her eyes were large and brown. The wind also blew the material of the clothes up against her. So I've noticed that she had a very fine figure indeed. And pleasing to the eye, yes. And we talked about poetry and philosophy. Oh my gosh. She introduced me to new poets that I'd never met before, never heard of before. Her philosophy was similar to mine, but there were differences, so we wouldn't get bored in our conversations. We went back to her home, and the meal apparently was cooked mostly by her. The food was delectable. She was the perfect wife. But you're not married? No, you're single, you live on your own, so where is she? Well, I have to say, said the Hodja, taking another sip of his Turkish coffee, that sadly she was looking for the perfect husband. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Simon Brooks, ladies and gentlemen.